when the music fades, all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's a word that will bless your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. King of endless worth, no one could express how much you deserve. Though I'm weak and poor, though all I have is yours, every single breath. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, through the way things appear. You're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I made. It's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. Yeah, it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. Yeah, it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus.
All right, good morning and welcome to Westside. My name is Josh and I'll kind of be leading you through the service. If you're new here or if you've been attending for a while, we just really want to welcome you. It's great to see everybody's faces on this warm day. I encourage you to ask a farmer if they're happy or not. I got the typical response, yeah, no, it's good. We could use some rain is what I'm hearing out there, but just, just a little bit. Anyway, this morning when I was sitting there listening to that first song, I just really love that. It's just such a simple song that what we're doing here in this service, this congregation, in our community here, like, this is all about you, Jesus. This is all about who you are and the great God that you are. And when you're singing those lyrics, there's something about it that just simplifies everything. Doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be about Jesus. And so, to start off, I'm gonna oh boy, no. I'm gonna say a verse, and it's a pretty common verse when we talk about worship, but it's just something that I kind of felt led to. It comes from Psalms 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. So let's just remember that going through this service. We got an exciting service. We're going to have some kids graduating up into the next level, and that's always exciting too. So let's just bow for a word of prayer, and then I'm going to let the worship team take it away. Dear God, I just want to thank you for today. I want to thank you for the warm weather. I want to thank you for bringing everybody here today and that you brought them here for a purpose. Whatever that is, God, I pray that you would just prepare our hearts. Help us to just really simplify it today. Just simplify that it's about you, and that's all it is. And I just want to pray that we would just be able to praise you for just everything you've given us and for this day. And as we go out also into our weeks, again, I pray that we would just know that it's just about you, God. We just strive to know you more and be more like you every day, and just give us the strength to do that. Pray as the service goes on, I pray that you would just give Pastor Gerald the word to speak, and also for the kids who are graduating into the next stages, I just pray, God, you just bless them. I pray that this next year would just be such a big year for their growth in you, and that they would just know you more every day. Pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Welcome here this morning. I'm just going to invite you guys to stand if you're able as we sing some more songs. My life is built on your faithfulness. My hope is held in your promises. And I take each step with your confidence, 'cause I am yours. I am yours. You never fail. You never fail. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your name for greater things. Cleared away. You cleared away in the wilderness. You brought me back from my brokenness. You took my shame and you buried it. What you've done, I won't forget. You never fail. You never. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your name for greater things. I will not fear, for you are with me. And I'll see this fight on the victory. No power of hell can stand against me. 'Cause I've seen this fight on the victory. Yeah. And I will not fear, for you are with me. And I'll see this fight on the victory. No power of hell can stand against me. 'Cause I've seen this fight on the victory. You never fail. You never fail. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your name greater things. For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found. Is a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. That was your fault. Now is your fault. Still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. And I felt no worth. You paid it off. You have been so, so kind to me. Here we go. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found. Me is a 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Yeah, sing it out now. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb, coming after me. So all you want tear down, all you want tear down, coming after me. Snow shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Snow altar, the Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to blame. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes, a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. So come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Oh, what a Savior, isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Sing that again. Oh, what a Savior, isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Bear your cross as you wait for the crown. Tell the world of the treasures you found.
All right, thank you, worship team. All right, just a couple announcements before we go on with the service. So the first one, Grad Sunday is coming up next Sunday. So we are basically going to be blessing and saying a prayer over the grads of this congregation next Sunday. So welcome to come out, bring family and friends. It should be a great service. Also, baptism classes and membership classes. Baptism classes will be May 28th at 9:30, and then membership will follow on June 4th at 6:30 p.m., not a.m. So if you're interested in becoming a member or getting baptized, we would just love to have that conversation with you. Either talk to Pastor Gerald or Pastor Donovan or Pastor Dave, or You can talk to really whoever, and somebody should be able to give you some information. And the last one, it's not going to be up here, but just as I was walking in today, I just see this really big, colorful board at the back there. And I don't know if anybody has taken a look at that, but that is our VBS sign up. And I just want to really encourage everybody here to start praying for that program in the summer. There's going to be a lot of planning. There's going to be a lot of different moving parts. And for those that are involved, let's just pray for them as they get it going. And also just for the program itself, I've said this once or twice before, but I don't think we give enough credit to how impactful those programs can be on kids and even the families of those kids that are showing up and coming to those events. So, just keep that in mind this week and the following weeks. Pastor Gerald.
So baptism class is an hour and a half ago. Yeah. Okay. So you're late. Those of you who haven't been baptized or thinking about it, there will be a time travel class next week, and we'll come back to it. So if you're thinking about baptism, we'll go again. So we had 4 folks walk through it today. We're going to do baptism actually June 11th here, and then June 25th at the lake. And if you want to be taking part in that, we have lots of flexibility, and we'll have class whenever, because we want to be a part of it with you. Hi, how you doing? Hot, windy week? Did you know that? That's what I'm here to help you with, tell you what the weather was. Very helpful. Just good to be here. If you have your Bibles, turn to Mark 6. We've been going through this series, walking through Mark, the news we need to hear, and we have a few verses to cover today, and at the end of the service, we'll have our Westside story at the end of the sermon, and we'll have these kids come up, and we'll get to celebrate with them and their families this transition, this move to through all these different schools, and we just really want to pray over them and thank God for them because they're incredible. So we'll work towards that today as we walk through Mark 6, 30 to 44. Maybe I'll just get into it. So we always pick a few verses or news stories of the week to kind of, what really you're hoping is that we understand that there is the gospel has an effect on the culture around us, and actually the gospel is so needed in every setting that we take part in. And to believe that, we take these headlines and go, how might God use us in these settings? So to that end, we're going to read some of these headlines as they play into it. So I just picked 2 for today. The first one, and here's something new for us today. I can't see you now, though. They're just readers. I can't see. But we're going to talk about the miracle of abundance today. But I think there's been a miracle of diminishment when it comes to font size in my Bible and things. So I'll just be doing this a lot. Okay, there you are. Hi. Which could be good that I can't see you because sometimes when I'm speaking, like you walk through the gospel and you talk about certain issues, maybe you talk about sins, and then I lock eyes with one person and that person's like, I'm like, sorry, I'm just bouncing over the crowd. I didn't mean to, I don't know anything. It's okay. So this just keeps it general. So you're all sinful. All right. We've all sinned and fallen short. Here we go. It's first teaching. But then I have to focus because now I can't see anything. So that'll just be the whole day as me taking these on and off and being annoyed and annoying. Here's the first headline. So 20 richest countries account for over half of 50 million people in modern slavery. Now, I read that headline and I was really surprised by it. Just that number. It seems really high. What do we mean by maybe modern slavery? A few takes on this. So it's something like bonded labor. Like India tops the list with 11 million, and bonded labor in India is a real issue. Bonded labor being, let's say I encounter all this debt, I incur all this debt, and I can't get out from underneath it. So someone pays off my debt, and often it's an organization or a business that would pay off my debt, but now I owe them. So it helps me in the short run, but in the long run, I'm now really bonded to that person, that organization. And that can create real problems because there's such an equity there, and I lose all my power to raise funds, to really live my life, because now I'm enslaved, bonded to these people. And often I won't be able to pay it off my lifetime, so I bond my children as well. And you have this generational bonded labor curse, price to pay that people can't get out from underneath. Real problem in India. So 11 million, it tops the list. It's also forced marriages, people who can't get out. So slavery being, I'm not in control of decision-making in my life. So forced marriages, countries where that is higher, play into this number. But that number is a 10 million people increase from 5 years ago. So it's not a problem that goes away. It's a problem that's getting worse and worse and worse. So of this, India tops the list with 11 million. China, 5.8 million. Like, notice the richest countries. Russia, 1.9 million. Indonesia, 1.8. Turkey, 1.3. United States, 1.1. Canada is in 15th place with just under 70,000 people being exploited with seemingly no way out, creating modern slavery. So like I see that number in North America, like really that high? Like, well, when you add sex trafficking into those numbers, you start to see how those numbers could exist and be the way they be. So as we were reading through the scripture today, let's keep this headline in mind, like what might God have to say to us, me as an individual, but also us as a church, because we are going to be talking about a miracle of abundance, of God taking care of people. And how does that play out in the world today? So have that in mind when it comes to the church, when it comes to our role as followers of Christ. Okay, second one. Man in Louisville, Kentucky shoots roommate after accusing him of eating the last Hot Pocket. Kind of funny, not funny if you're the one getting shot or charged. Anyone had a Hot Pocket here? They're not that good? Bold words, bold words. It's like a pizza pop, kinda. It's an American version of it. Some people obviously find it delicious and get upset when they're gone. So a man, 64, was arrested on assault charges last Sunday, a week ago, after he accused his roommate of eating their last Hot Pocket. He attacked him, shooting him in the buttocks as he attempted to flee the apartment. Now, it's kind of funny when you read it, but really, if you think of the heartache in this whole thing, like, man, 64, that upset, like living in that anger, and then someone feeling like he has been wronged to the extent that I will pull out a gun and shoot you while you were running away. Like, what is going on in this man's life? Like, for us to dig deeper, where is this, the truth in here for us, how God would like us to be present? Because we're going to talk about a miracle of abundance. When it comes to this little headline about the Hot Pocket, this person, a 65-year-old man in Louisville, Kentucky, is operating from a space of, I don't have enough, or you took it. Like, that's mine. Where is the grace? Where is the mercy, the forgiveness, all of that? Where is the health, the emotional health in this person's life? That's how we need to read headlines. It's not so much for like, where's all the truth in this headline? Where is the truth in us as readers, as listeners, and how can we help? That is where we are supposed to be available to people. Just how available are we? So if you have your Bibles, if you have your phone apps, open them up right now to Mark 6. We're going to start with verse 30 to 44, and we are going to read it through. If you don't have your app open yet, I'll give you time. It'll be all right. I'm going to put my glasses on. There. Do I look more wise? I thought I might. All right. That's why I do it. Jesus feeds 5,000. This is going to be a story that's really known to a lot of us. We read this. It's in all four Gospels. And here is Mark's version of it. And there's different emphases in other Gospels. We're just going to, for the most part, stick with Mark. Because Mark has a reason. Hopefully we're falling in love with how Mark writes and how Mark presents the gospel message to the listener. And so we really, If there was 4 of us and we were writing eyewitness accounts, we would all emphasize different things. And it's like back in the day, there was a place called Blockbuster. I don't know if you know it. You rent movies. Like that was your weekend. You go, you get movies, and now you just have it all available. But you would go, and there'd be different picks. Different workers would have their picks, right? It'd be like, oh, this person. And maybe you'd find a worker that really resonated with you. Oh, like, whatever Billy likes, I really like. And so I trust his takes. Well, that's kind of how the Gospels work, is everyone has their emphases, and there's definite similarities. They're all movies. It's all the gospel message, but what they emphasize and how they put it together is unique to each author. So as we get into Mark, we really want to plumb the depths of Mark and what he has through Jesus' gospel message. So Mark 6, starting with verse 30. The apostles returned to Jesus. Okay, they've been on a big trip. That's the first thing. They came back from their big trip. And what did we go through last week? John the Baptist being beheaded. So you have that traumatic event happening. And Mark, like we said, it's the action gospel. It is just boom, 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 moving on. Well, he moves right back to, we left the tour, the disciples went. It was an incredible event of them going out, spreading the word, and them coming back. And that's where Mark picks it up. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all they had done and taught. Then Jesus said, let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while. He said this because there were so many people coming and going that Jesus and his apostles didn't even have time to eat. So they left by a boat for a quiet place where they could be alone. But many people recognized them and saw them leaving. And people from many towns ran ahead along the shore and got there ahead of them. Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came back to him and said, this is a remote place. It's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the nearby farms and villages and buy something to eat. But Jesus said, you feed them. With what, they asked. We'd have to work for months to earn enough money to buy food for all these people. How much bread do you have, he asked. Go and find out. They came back and reported, we have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Then Jesus told the disciples to have the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of 50 or 100. Jesus took the loaves, the 5 loaves, and the 2 fish, looked up toward heaven, and blessed them. Then breaking the loaves into pieces, he kept giving the bread to the disciples so they could distribute it to the people. He also divided the fish for everyone to share. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterward the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftover bread and fish. A total of 5,000 men and their families were fed from these loaves. That's a lot of stuff going on. So we've probably heard this miracle feeding story before. And as a listener or a reader of Mark, you would understand that this is not the only feeding miracle in the Bible. Here in the Old Testament, 2 Kings 4, 42 to 44. One day a man from Baal-Shalishah brought the man of God a sack of fresh grain and 20 loaves of barley bread made from the first grass of his harvest. Elisha said, give it to the people so they can eat. What? His servant exclaimed, feed 100 people with only this? But Elisha repeated, give it to the people so they can eat. For this is what the Lord says, everyone will eat, and there will even be some left over. And when they gave it to the people, there was plenty for all, and some left over, just as the Lord had promised. Now, remember, there's always been a mistaken identity with Jesus, and Jesus hasn't been the most forthcoming with who he is. And he's been mistaken for great prophets. Here we have Elisha, and Jesus, through this miracle, the people would know of Elisha's miracle, and they see Jesus and what Jesus is about to do in the story we just read. And we see that Jesus blows this miracle, makes it look like a little teeny tiny miracle compared to what he is going to do and what he does. And we have to have those echoes of those stories, this story, as playing around in our heads and in our hearts as we read this story. Okay, so let's get back to Mark 30. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour. I don't know if they had t-shirts or cloaks with the dates on it. That'd be cool. And they told them all they had done and taught, and it's really good. And remember, a verse earlier, John the Baptist has been beheaded. Like, if we take nothing else from this lesson, it's like good things happen, terrible things happen. And it doesn't mean necessarily how godly you are, what the outcome might be. John the Baptist, very godly, terrible ending. Terrible ending. Horrific. But Mark goes right back to the good news of what has been taught and the excitement of the apostles coming back. Good result, bad result. And what does Jesus do? Then Jesus said, let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place. That word quiet comes up twice here, and it's also going to come up as remote in the New Living Translation. What the word is basically it's the same word used each time, which means desolation or desert, to a desolate place, quiet, no one there, nothing going on. So I was going to call it the Thorn Hill of the Bible, but I didn't. Oh, fighting words with Thornhillians. Here we go. If you're watching online from Thornhill. I don't think they have internet. Oh, here we go. Thornhill's awesome. We'll all end up there. It's a beautiful place. All right, moving on. He said this because there were so many people. Oh, there are Thornhill people here. I am so sorry. I know you're here. I love it. I'm going to visit it later today, I'm sure. All right. Thornhill tourism. Here we go. Then Jesus said, let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while. There's this rhythm in Jesus that he's always getting away. The crush of people throughout Mark, we've been reading about it. And then there is this getting away. You need to get away. And there's this rhythm that we can learn in that. But it's interesting what happens because there's so many people coming and going, they couldn't even eat. Like, it's not just a little thing. Like, we can't even eat. The crush of people. And this is happening because, like, miracles are happening. People are being brought back to life. People are finding healing. Jesus is showing power over weather. Like, demonic people are experiencing freedom. And Jesus is doing all this. And that will get a movement going. You have this young prophet and these people crushing in on him. And he says it's time for a retreat. Now, we think back to Herod Antipas last week that we walked through that. And Herod Antipas, Mark calls him the king, but really he's not that, right? Like, he's the tetrarch, which is a much smaller region than this huge kingship, but Mark calls him a king because he's the ruler. He's in charge. But here you have this young prophet coming, and Herod Antipas, like, he's having birthday parties, leering at women, getting drunk, and he is with the Holy Trinity of what power means in this culture, and maybe in our culture as well, of political power, military power, and commerce, business power, financial power. You have all the three elements with Herod Antipas, but you don't have this huge following. And those three groups are only following Herod because that's how power works. If it works for you, because you are the rule maker. And if I am aligned with you, that benefits me and my agenda. And Jesus has a very different kingdom. Remember, two kingdoms opposed to each other is what Mark is all about. And that plays out in this story as well. Like, Herod Antipas doesn't have these followers, but here is this young prophet, Jesus, who has these incredible movements of people who are following, crushing in on him. And that's also an echo we need to hear in this story. Is Jesus, they want to set him up as king continually. You're our king. You're our king. You have this power. And he's like, no, this kingdom doesn't work this way. I'm not setting up an earthly kingdom. So he meets the crowds. Jesus saw the huge crowd. Well, the people recognized them and saw them leaving. So it's like if you're in the far side of Lake Minnewaska, someone gets in a canoe, and I'm going over there to the other side, and you're like, I know where they're going. I'm going to guess it. And they race along the shore, and they beat them there. It's fascinating. How frustrated would you be if you're trying to get away to this desolate, deserted place? And these people, you're probably watching them running. You're like, oh man, they're going to beat us there. Like, we have a pastor's retreat coming up the next few days at Hecla. We leave right after this service. The pastor, our staff are going. It's a cool thing, always fun. Just good to just get away. And it's like, if your people were just so enamored and enthralled with us, you couldn't get enough of us. as staff. You show up at our place every evening. You're like, oh, teach me more. You're so amazing. You don't do that. I don't know why, but you seem to give us a lot of free space. But it's like, and you found out we were going to Hecla, and you're like, I know how to shortcut. And you go to Hecla, and we get there for a retreat, and you're all there. And you're like, no, we don't want to be apart from you. It'd be awesome. We're staying in your room. You're like, oh, great, cool. Now, I would with you folks are amazing. But if you were Jesus, if you were the disciples, and you see these people and they beat you to the deserted place, which is no longer deserted, how excited would you be to see them? How frustrated would you be? And it's sorely needed. You need a break. Is Jesus frustrated? Is Jesus angry? No. And that's where I know Jesus is not like me. I think I would be frustrated and angry because it's a good thing. It's not the wrong thing that Jesus is doing. It is the right thing for him and his people. His followers need a rest. They haven't even been eating. They have to skip meals because they are taking care of the people's needs. But what does Jesus have? Well, like if you don't think you can go to Jesus, like just this verse, let it hit you. Because Jesus had compassion. And throughout the Bible, you have Jesus having compassion on the people. When Jesus gets angry and frustrated, like we've said many times here, it's with the religious elite. That's when Jesus gets mad. That's who he's angry with. It's not even angry with the Roman powers, it seems. He's angry with religious leadership. He is not angry with the people who need him so much. We can continue to go to God, and you will find compassion. So here we have Jesus not being frustrated, angry, compassionate. Because why? And he says, Jesus saw the huge crowd. He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them. First thing he says, I'm going to tell you some things. And so he's probably teaching identity, who they are. And he's teaching their love. And he's like, you don't have to remain the way you are. There is a much better path for you. Follow these ways, and it will lead to freedom and grace and forgiveness. All those things. He is teaching the people, teaching them with compassion. Doesn't seem to be judgmental. So that's one thing for us to learn as well. Sheep without a shepherd. Very Old Testament theme here. Here's 4 scriptures where sheep without a shepherd is a running theme. That people need leadership, but leadership that can be trusted, leadership that loves the people, and the people can find their way. And leadership that leads to truth. You have that throughout this. Let's go back to verse 35. And late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, it's a remote place. It's already getting late. They're very practical. They're not clueless here, the disciples. He says, send the crowds away. So there's 3 options now. Everyone's busy. Here's 3 options. First one, send the crowds away. That seems like a good option. We don't have any resources here. Let's shut the meeting down. Good teaching. Nice job. I'm reading into this a little bit. Let them go. Take care of themselves. That's the first one. But Jesus said, here's the second option. You feed them. Not we feed them. You feed them. And the disciples, just like Elisha's servant, is like, with what? And they're like, right to money. You just sent us on a big tour where we're not supposed to take any money or anything, and everyone's supposed to be reliant on hospitality. Everyone's going to take care of us. And now you're telling us you feed them? That requires me to go purchase food, which is about equivalent to half a year's wage. Because let's say all of Morden was here, and they all came out to Sunday morning service because you people are so awesome, and they just want to hang out. They see something happening here. And then we have lunch. We're doing a potluck, but there's no luck with the food. Like there's no food. No one brought any food. And I'm leading the teaching perhaps, and I'm like, you're going to pay for feeding them. And you'd all go, great idea. Would you think it's a good idea? How much money is that going to cost? Half a year's wage is what is the number here. And they're like, what? You feed them with what they asked. I'd have to work for months to earn enough money to buy food for all these people. Thanks a lot. Terrible idea. There's a third option here, and this is where Jesus goes. How much bread do you have? Yes, go and find out. So off they go. They do a reconnaissance mission, and they come back with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. Is that how it goes? That's how it goes. Now, I don't know if this is like a fish picture. You go fishing. I don't know if they came up to Jesus and held the fish really close to his eyes so it looks bigger. This is the fish. I don't know if it's 2 whales they brought forward. Some people really tried to de-miracleize this story, and I'm not sure why, because there's miracles happening before and after this all over the place. Like Jesus can do stuff that defies expectation. But there isn't like a miracle word or 2 in here that Jesus performed a miracle, but there's just the circumstances that lead us and lead the reader to believe that something supernatural has happened here. But they said, and I think they came back with, look, this is what we have. Not like, mission accomplished. We're good to go now. It's not that. It's, this is all we have. Nice try. Didn't work. Next. Come on in. That's my cue to wrap it up. I like it. So here's what happens. He says, find out what we have. And they bring it, and he says, that'll do. That's what they bring. And watch what Jesus will do. And here's what Jesus does. He uses what they have and says, let's go. He says, and then he says, let's get organized. And he sits them in rows. The word is very interesting. It's a very detailed word, and it's like a vegetable garden. It's not like scattering of seed, like groups, like clusters of 50 or 100. It is rows of 50 to 100. It's like when you kids came up, you're probably in rows, right? And it's very, like it requires patience. It requires like, I'm going to wait it out. And here Jesus gets organized. He says, put them in rows, and he puts them in green grass, which is like Psalm 23 comes up. And Jesus is being the good shepherd here and taking care of them. And then he says, he looks up and he blesses bread and he just thanks God for what they have. And then through that, Jesus keeps handing it out. And the people have to walk and live in a place of abundance, that there's more than enough. You're not going to be okay. You're not going to have an act of violence because someone stole your last pizza pop. It's going to be all right. But it's not just true in that case, in that setting. It's true of how we live our lives, that there will be enough. And maybe it's just, like for today, maybe it's just us coming forward with it. Lord, this is what I have. I feel I don't have enough. But what will you do with this, God? And it's personal, but it's also for us as a church. Lord, if we listed our assets here, and we're going to talk about this next week, because next week's teaching where Jesus is walking on water, there's a lack of understanding about what's all going on, and Jesus references back to this story. And so we're going to walk through it more next week. Because the numbers are significant and just what's happening here and what's cooking. But the main thing is that there is enough. You don't have to be angry or feel that you have been wronged in not having enough. It is like, Lord, I have to trust in you. This is what I have. And in our Congo partnership, there is a ministry that John Fumana walks through the people in his, that he works with in the Congo, and it's called asset-based community development. It's just whatever community you're a part of, what do you have? What are your assets? We'll put those to work. It's not measuring what we don't have. It is measuring what we do have and watching what God will do with that. Maybe there's something in there for you this morning. I know there's something in there for us as a church. We have so many assets. We have so many resources, and the biggest one is the people resources we have. Kids ministry. We have all these folks working in, investing in, and just being a part of who we are and what God is calling us to. That is just an embarrassment of riches and blessing that God has entrusted to us, and what does God want us to do with it? I think I'll stop there. So what we're going to do is we're marking this move up from one school to another, from one class to another. And we just want to celebrate with you folks. And I'm going to call Joe and Dave up to walk us through this. And then we'll have a prayer of blessing at the end.